Malaki Starks, Omarion Hampton, and Tyler Warren. We're putting them all under the microscope today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started.
A little doubleheader. NFL draft content this week. We had the mock draft show from yesterday, and now a couple of prospect deep dives as we look through some of the best prospects in the country for the 2025 NFL draft. Tomorrow, we get ready for week 5 of the NFL season, and I always, Joe, calculate the season, the weeks of the season by whatever NFL season it is, plus 1 is the college football week, which means we are like halfway point of the college football season already.
Wow. The film resumes are becoming more and more complete, which means quarterbacks. We're going to talk quarterbacks Sunday. Yeah, soon. Maybe. Yeah. All right.
We'll talk quarterback of the defense today.
Oh, wow. Incredible transition to Malaki Starks, the outstanding safety from Georgia. 6'1", 205 pounds. 5-star recruit, running back in addition to defensive back in high school, also track for a state long jump champion, ran the 100 meters in 10.55. Obviously turned heads in his first ever college game, intercepting Bo Nix with just an insane play.
Had another one of those against Clemson this year.
He did it again. And so the highlight package is really, really exciting, but so is the overall package when you study the tape. Kyle, I'll give you the floor here.
I couldn't believe you left off the 24.9 long jump.
I said he was a state champion long jump. I just didn't write down the number.
The personal best mark of 24 feet 9 inch long jump.
Is that the bunnies? Is that what we call that? The hops, the bunnies, whatever it is. Hops out the stadium, whatever the terms
right now
are.
You're Steve Buscemi with the backwards hat and the skateboard. Hello, young folk.
I know who I am.
You do, young folk. Starks is a dynamic player, and I can't help but really be impressed with the versatility and coverage that he displays. I think he can contribute to a defense in a lot of ways and a lot of different alignments, and I think that's really embodied by when you see where he makes his splash plays. Now, he's coming off of not his best performance of his career. Like that Alabama game was a big time showcase. He got blocked out in space by skill players on a couple of occasions that led to some explosive runs for Alabama. So you readily acknowledge, like, if you're looking for the stock is as high as it's been for Malaki Starks, if you're only as good as your last game, maybe this isn't the best like glow up for Malaki as compared to if we would have talked to him after Clemson when he makes his latest Odell Beckham interception with elite ball skills and insane influence around the catch radius. But I think he can play man. I think he can fit. I think he can play deep. I think he can play high post and single high. I think he can play hard edges in run support. He's a good tackler. Like, what do you not like about the profile here? And it's more just a positional value conversation, I think, with Malaki Starks.
Yeah, I have written down has it all, right? I mean, I think he's a very complete prospect, and you highlighted a lot of his best attributes. I certainly love the ball skills. I think that matters a lot. If I'm going to invest in a first-round safety, I definitely want a guy that's going to take away the football that doesn't have restrictions. And I think whatever you want him to do on the football field, he can do, especially in coverage where that athleticism really shines. No, he's not Kyle Hamilton as a striker or, Kyle Duggar as a striker. That's not necessarily exactly who he is, but I thought there was a lot of instances of him playing off contact, being really aggressive to place his hands and shed blocks and make tackles in space. So I don't see a large sample size of those issues that were legit against Alabama. I didn't see that consistently. So I think it might be more of a one-off, and he's certainly shown that he can do those things. No, I mean, like, he's not going to be like your absolute heat-seeking missile, but I think he's plenty physical. And I think if you keep the main thing in terms of coverage ability, taking away the football, and how he can allow you to be really versatile with how you space the field on the back end because of his ability in one high or split zone or in man coverage, like that's going to matter a ton. And it just positional value. And I think I'm even more concerned with positional value right now, as the league tends to have a bit of a shift structurally with how the game's being played. I wonder if some of those conversations about safeties become even more complicated now that average depth of target is so much lower and you're not seeing the throws down the field the same level of frequency, which maybe takes away from the overall valuation of a Malaki Starks.
Well, I guess you could look at it this way. I have the utilization. We've talked about the versatility. This year, 97 snaps at free safety, 73 snaps in the slot, and 47 snaps on the second level as a second level box defender. So if you're going to circumvent positional value restrictions, that was kind of the thing with Kyle Hamilton, right? And he's not as long or as big as Kyle Hamilton. He's not as good of a high volume strike, like heavy striker as a tackler.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can contribute in all of those areas, I think helps. I have a stat for you with Malaki Starks that I think really embodies like why I'm so confident that he can be a valued contributor in a lot of different ways. We just mentioned all of the places that he plays, and his snap share throughout his career at Georgia across almost 1,800 snaps at this point, 888 snaps as a high post player, 466 snaps in the nickel, and 376 snaps in the box. What's his career missed tackle rate? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. It's like 6%, I'm pretty sure, right?
7%.
Yeah.
He was credited with 3 missed tackles against Alabama. That's as many missed tackles as he had all season last year. 3. That level of tackling consistency, playing in the box and in the nickel, and then, of course, the value on the back end as a tackler is immense because you're last line of defense.
Yeah, I think that versatility in the nickel matters too, right? Like I think you're seeing teams play the more matchup specific with that role, and I think that will continue. I think you're going to like him not only against power slots or like bigger tight ends, but the versatility to also play like a traditional slot player in coverage as well. And you want that guy to be part of your run fit. I feel pretty good about him doing that.
And a lot of his best plays in coverage playing the ball have come from the nickel too.
Yeah. I just occurred to me, we have positional value conversations to have about all of the prospects today.
Great.
So you tell me Malaki Starks goes 10. Sure. Yeah. I believe you. Tell me he goes 25. Sure. Yeah.
So you believe it now?
Well,
because this was the whole thing.
I guess so. Yeah. But I mean, it'll be one of those situations where he will be one of the best 10 or 15 prospects in the class.
And it's just a matter. Does the board fall favorably for somebody to say, yeah, this is the best 10th best player in the class, we should take him no matter what? Or
he's probably a little cleaner of a prospect, though, of some of those guys that have been more fringe, like Winfield, like Holland, right? Like I think those are all great football players, but maybe this one's a little more straightforward in terms of
Starks has a bigger physical profile than Winfield. I think that's the best thing that he has going for him, because the concern there is, well, you're not a big guy playing, and if we want to play you all around, right? Yeah. Holland, Starks has a bigger resume at this point already than Holland. Remember, Holland played 2 years, sat out 2020 with the COVID season.
Yeah.
And his first year was really just as a high safety. His second year was really just as a nickel. So I think you have a better body of work of being a versatile player. Did he have anybody that he reminded you of?
It's more of I
have
Holland's not bad. Who's your name? I think he's got pieces of a lot of players.
Kevin Byard was the name that I had.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Byard probably is underrated as a tackler based on some of the commentary with him. He's got a little more mass to him than Byard, I'm pretty sure as well.
Let me check. Why don't you we'll do the break, and I'll come back out of the break, and I'll have
you'll find out how big Kevin Byard is. Stick with us. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, so that way your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money back in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
So Kevin Byard, by the way, Kevin Byard's career missed tackle rate is about 6% as well at the NFL level. So that was a big selling point on that. Byard, 5'11", 216.
I am wrong. Plenty. He's more dense.
64th pick in the NFL draft.
Man, I thought Byard was a lot more lean than that. I am wrong. Okay.
Well, let's go to a player who's not lean at all. And Omarion Hampton.
Running back. North Carolina, 6 foot, 220 pounds. Coming off of a 1,500 rushing yard season with 15 rushing touchdowns. Big time recruit out of the great state of North Carolina. Cleveland High School, North Carolina. Goes to North Carolina. He's very, very productive. Off to a good start this season. And he went in the mock draft. First round of Kyle Crabbs' latest mock draft. Omarion Hampton.
Good athlete. Oh,
yeah,
he is. Three sport athlete in high school. Also posted 2,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, 12 yards per carry at Cleveland High School as a 4-star recruit in his senior season. So
yeah, some of these running backs in high school, it's not a fair fight, man. You know what I mean? You just ain't gonna work.
So contact balance is the thing that stands out to me the most with Omarion Hampton. But there's a fluidity with it that comes. Do you remember? He's not like this player at all, but that's why the name came to me. Remember Jeremy Hill?
Yeah, Georgia Tech.
Was it Georgia Tech or LSU?
Same thing.
Same thing. Same difference.
I'm thinking of Steven. When you said that, I thought of Stephen Hill, but yes, Jeremy Hill, Louisiana State. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
And like his whole thing, like everybody liked him because he always fell forward on his runs and he got the hard yards, but he felt really clunky as a back. And when it really struck me the difference of, as I'm watching Omarion Hampton and how he moves with contact balance, with earning hard yards, but doing so in a way that is graceful. I think that's the most appealing quality that he has for me as a running back.
Yeah, I think that Omarion Hampton is a physical runner that has good vision. I like his decision making. I like his contact balance, and I think he's got good speed. Like I think there's a gear here that you maybe don't expect for a guy that's 6 foot, 220 pounds. And I really enjoyed that about him. And, I think his ability to sustain himself and be balanced through contact is exciting. And I think he sees the field pretty cleanly. Jeremy Hill was interesting name to invoke. I thought there was
just because he was so different in that, like how he moved it as just like a player in space.
Right. The names that were in my mind when I was watching him were DeMarco Murray is kind of the extreme example, but also like Roshan Johnson in some ways, the player we watched at Texas.
He's better than that.
Man, Kyle continues to be a Roshan Johnson hater.
Well, hey, how's Roshan Johnson look so far in Chicago?
Is about as good as any back behind that situation there.
What's his production lines look like?
That's
good.
Kyle. You
Chicago spent a lot of money on running backs.
No,
did Chicago spend to bring a running back into the fray after spending a day 2 pick on Roshan Johnson?
You are too smart of a football mind to just clown a guy like that.
I'm not. I'm just saying I never got it with Roshan Johnson.
Right.
I never got the appeal there.
Fair enough.
I think Omarion Hampton's much better than Roshan Johnson.
I don't disagree with you, but I think there's probably some stylistic similarities in terms of being about 6 foot, 220 pounds. I think Hampton has better speed, but I think there's kind of the physicality that they both played with is what made them both attractive to me. I think with Omarion, you just wonder, is there top end lateral movement to really elevate him into this like high end stratosphere of a back? And obviously the receiving, he's been consistent when he has chances to catch the football. I don't know that he's a very has an expansive resume in terms of catching the ball.
How do you put, he's not as big as Braylon Allen, but that's a name that just came out last year. What did you think of Braylon Allen? Obviously he's had these flashes in New York, and Jets fans are now ready for Braylon Allen to be the primary ball carrier for Brees Hall. But that was one of the things that stuck out to me. I never had the question with the height, weight, speed element of Braylon Allen. It was more like the lateral moving off the tracks. I think I don't think he's that extreme of Braylon Allen, but I bring that name up just because we just saw how the league treated a player like that when he fell to the 4th round.
Yeah, I thought Allen's tape was warranted for him to not be this high profile back that maybe some people pegged him as. I know he's found an early success, and that's great. But I don't think he's a super complete player. Do I wish that he had more agility to him? Sure. But I think the top end speed and the contact balance, and I think a guy that sees it clean and I like his tracks with the ball, like it makes it a little less concerning for me.
How about Joe Mixon? In
terms of kind of running tall, but I think that Hampton's a little more decisive than Mixon.
Okay. I mean, these are good observations to have and come off of for 6 foot, 220 plus pound backs. I mean, we just held him to Braylon Allen. We think he moves laterally better than that. We think he's more decisive and has better vision than Joe Mixon. Like that. These are some good outcomes for him.
And I hate to, I'll invoke another name, Wayne Gallman. I think he's like, there's a more explosive, more explosive though than Wayne Gallman.
Man, I love Wayne Gallman at Clemson.
Right. But I mean, like you liked him because of the size and the contact balance and like how he sustained himself. Maybe not a ton of like lateral movement skills, but I think the top gear for Hampton's, he might be 2/10 faster than Gallman.
I think Gallman's doing right now.
Chilling. He had that one stretch with the Giants.
You're Giants like, okay, 2020. Like, and I was like, that's the guy I watched at Clemson. He can do it. And then he was like out of the league within 2 years.
How much of it is opportunity, like just being in
that spot too,
Yeah. So yeah, like the valuation piece of Hampton is interesting to me because I mean, I see an NFL starter.
Yeah.
But is he really contending for the late first round, or is he more of a day 2 player? Does his skill set really make it attractive? If you're going to try to fit the run from too high, is this guy going to eat you up? Probably. Does that help his valuation?
I see enough teams that are trying to make you eat it on the ground with too high shells and light box counts with guys that are 195, 200 pounds. And I get like the league went that way a little bit, but if the pendulum's going to start to swing back the other way, these 220-pound guys, like I do feel, and they can contribute something in the passing game. I do feel like there's an inherent like get ahead of the curve type of value here. And in a draft class where we haven't seen the trenches players make the leap necessarily, I do think that kind of leaves the door open for teams to draft a little bit more for need towards the tail end. And that's how he landed in the first round of the mock that I had yesterday, because running back was off the board to the Chargers, and the Cowboys came up, and it's like, well, they need a spot. And I didn't really like a lot of the other talent that was available at that stage.
Leading rushers in the NFL right now: Derrick Henry, Jordan Mason, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs.
Some big players.
Right. Those aren't small people, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a place for Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a place for James Cook. There's a place for Tony Pollard.
Don't say Kyron Williams. Don't throw him under the bus like that.
I won't.
What about rushing yards over expectation, last place rusher Devon Achane?
What do you want me to say, man? There's a multifaceted skill set with Devon Achane that.
Well, no, we're not going to make this a Devon Achane podcast. I'm just making the observation that was a player who one of the concerns coming out was he was 185 pounds, and after last year, he was first in the league in rushing yards over expectation, and now they're getting harder edges, and now you got to run a little bit more between the tackles, and we're not getting off of contact, and we're going down easily off first contact in high traffic areas, and I think that's applicable to what's appealing about Omarion Hampton.
Right. And I think when you have Mostert kind of doing his thing, right, as a complementary piece, Achane makes a lot of sense. But the good news for Hampton is I think he's the main cog in the wheel.
Right. He's not the
ancillary
rusher, chess piece, find ways to keep him involved and get him touches type of player.
Right.
You put him in the backfield and hand him the ball.
I don't know where he'll get drafted. I think he'll be a good starter in the NFL.
So you like
Omarion Hampton?
You do
yeah,
like?
Yeah, I do. I like decisive running backs with good contact balance.
I knew you'd like him.
That have good vision. Like it's easy to like. It's just like, okay, how dynamic is the receiving profile? And are you agile enough for me to really get the most out of your top end speed?
Right.
I don't know.
We got Ty Warren coming up next. Stick with
Ty Warren coming up next. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, Joe. Would you rather use a first-round pick for your favorite team on Omarion Hampton? Pretend you don't have
my favorite team is the Bills. So
yeah, so pretend you don't have Ray Davis.
Do you think that Ray Davis is a big? Okay, sure.
It's gotcha. A blockade to the hypothetical that I'm going to give you.
All right.
Would you rather use your for the Bills? You have needs at kicker and running back. Would you rather use a first-round pick on Omarion Hampton or a fourth-round pick to trade for Brandon Aubrey from the Dallas Cowboys? This is it for those who are new listeners of the show. We've had the running bit of Joe and the hypothetical of trading for a kicker.
This one's the most unique. This one might be your best one yet.
Fundamentally against the idea of doing it, while also fundamentally being against the idea of using early picks on running backs. So,
I'd rather spend the fourth-round pick on the kicker. That's
on
the
Aubrey?
Yeah, I would. Then pick. Yeah.
What if it was a third-round pick? What if Dallas says, "Well, your competing team is going to be a late pick in the round. We need a third-round pick." So now it's a top 100 pick. How high does the pick have to go before you take the running back?
I don't like that the alternative being the running back is hard. I think I cap out as at the third round. I do. You're not getting a first or second round pick from me from a kicker.
Okay, but you take the third round pick for Aubrey, who can hit from 75 like with his eyes closed.
Well, yeah, especially as I live through the Tyler Bass fallout right before my eyes. Yeah,
it's a high volatile position, right?
Hey, you're good. Kickers are good until they're not, right?
Right, and then magically they're not. And sometimes it's the holder's fault, and sometimes the kicker
Nope.
just forgets how to kick.
This one's the kicker.
The same.
Yeah, I got a resume of Sam Martin being just fine holding in the NFL for all pro kickers. So yeah, I'm good there.
Ty Warren.
So you say Ty Warren, that makes me think of the running back, right? Or it's not Ty. It's the defensive tackle from the Patriots.
From the Patriots back in
the day.
So
this is Tyler Warren.
Okay. Yeah, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, maybe he prefers Ty, but that won't be what I call him. Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State, verified measurements, 6'5" 3/4", 255 pounds, baseball, basketball, football background in high school. Kind of had a breakout season for Penn State last year, has had some big games so far this year. Is there any other background details you want to get into here, or just kind of start talking about the skill set?
Just hell of an athlete.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it shows by the fact that he was a 4-year letterman in basketball, a 4-year letterman in football, a 3-year letterman in baseball.
Big time athlete family, right? I mean, everybody that's associated with him played college ball or something.
Right. And I think Tyler too, in high school, just looking at the Penn State bio for him, able to rush, able to pass, playing tight end now, being involved in the passing game as a 5th-year player. The versatility really stands out, and that you see that this year with how they're utilizing him as a short yardage or special package quarterback at times for Penn State. I think that's what makes him really intriguing, in addition to, I think he's developed into a really nice blocker, and he's got a big catch radius, and he's smooth.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Tucker Kraft. Gets after people in the run game, and I like the versatility that he shows as a blocker. Like, there's certainly a lot of good inline stuff, but they put him in the backfield. They have him wham across formations. He's out in space. He's a very good blocker, and that matters a lot, man. If you want to run the ball and win edges and be able to do so out of a variety of looks, this guy's going to help that a ton, and I love that about him. And I think there's a lot of receiving upside. I think he's got to polish himself up there, but like in terms of athleticism and skill with the ball in his hands, and even like some really good moments of body control and ball skills, like all of it is there in flashes. It's just about expanding what he does as a receiver and showing more routes and being able to win a little bit more down the field. But the athleticism is there. The skill feels like it's there. The mentality feels really good to me. There's a lot of raw potential here that I'm very intrigued by.
Yeah.
Good with the ball in his hands too. Like, he's a load, man, to tackle.
Yeah. You saw, what was it against? It's against Kent State. He just did like a basic flat.
Killing dudes.
And he carried 5 dudes for an extra 5 yards. And I get you're playing Kent State, so it'll be a little different in the pros, but at some point 255 is going to translate when you're going against guys that are 190, 195, right? And I think that's the part of Tyler Warren that I get really excited. And Tucker Kraft wasn't necessarily a name that I had in my head, but I really like it now that you mention it. And I wonder if fans that maybe don't like that comp because of the fantasy profile of Tucker Kraft in Green Bay's offense, right? Like, Tucker Kraft at South Dakota State was a really productive receiving tight end because he had opportunities. And those opportunities not necessarily coming in the midst of platooning with Luke Musgrave. And they got 6 deep at wide receiver that they could throw the ball to.
Yeah.
As I just got done throwing shade at Roschon Johnson for having limited opportunities, here I am standing for Tucker Kraft for having limited opportunities. But
yeah, I thought when I said invoke Tucker Kraft, that was definitely intended to be a compliment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't miss me with the box score scouting. Even when he's played, actually, he's been pretty productive. So I think he'd be a useful player. I haven't seen any of this. Is the first tight end I've watched, so I don't really have a barometer. I haven't seen this Loveland. I don't know about these other players, but again, I think the valuation's tricky. I think I'm more intrigued with him than maybe like Brenton Strange, who went 64 overall, second round pick. So
yeah, I think Strange contrasting those two players. Strange was definitely a little more. You could tell he was just a high school wide receiver, right?
Yeah,
now,
I like this guy's game more for sure.
He really ballooned into a favorable frame, Brenton Strange, but like the background was still in being a player who plays in space. And I don't think that's necessarily the case for Tyler Warren, where I think you see a little bit more comfort in the chaos and the traffic areas for him. Now, he doesn't have the length catch radius that Brenton Strange does, but he's got a great catch radius nonetheless, as evidenced by a couple of the one-handed catches that he has on his reel. So I like him a lot. I would not be surprised if he ends up being tight end one for me personally when it's all said and done. There is some competition. You mentioned Colston Loveland from Michigan. He's a good player, and we'll do the deep dive on him in the coming weeks here on the show.
All right. I think we have some players down for next week. Is it Abdul Carter and Shadur Sanders?
Abdul Carter and Shadur Sanders are down for next week, yes.
Oh, some heavy hitters. Heavy hitters, Kyle Crabbs.
Do you have a position group that you would like to use the last one
on? An easy position, because I feel like I'm going to have to watch a lot of both of those players. So help me with some efficiency here, where there's not going to be a million reps that I'll have to watch to get a feel.
Okay. About Emeka Egbuka.
A wide receiver from Ohio State?
Yeah.
We got it.
That's a big one next week.
I'll ask you 3 times between now and then which players they are.
Who do we have?
I have it written down, but is it going to matter? I don't know. Find out.
Probably not, but come back next week and find out who we do decide to do. But come back tomorrow. We preview week 5 of the NFL season. All of the games on the slate. That is tomorrow on the show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you list your favorite podcast. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here.